Gemini, this is your December 2024 soul story if you have a sun rising or moon in the sign. This is your final reading for the year. It's Romy. Thanks so much for joining me, for all of your support and investment on the channel this year. It's really lovely to connect with you and see the insights for this final few weeks. We open up the month with the energy of strength for you. The significance of something is not lost on you in December, Gemini, and it certainly feels as we begin the month still in Mercury retrograde, and then Mars retrograde joins the conversations. There's a huge amount of reevaluation and a lot of reminiscence going on for you, actually. The need to credit yourself, but also to kind of hold strong and firm in the vision that you have, the direction that you're moving in, the beliefs that you hold with regards to something. You know, I think that the strength can be such a steadying and powerful source of refuge and sanctuary for you when you realize actually just how much you've navigated over the last 12 months and just what it's taken to be able to get to this point. And of course, with a culminating full moon in your sign, in December, you're also going to realize something pretty significant if you consider back to what was going on in and around that new moon in Gemini earlier this year. There's a feeling in December of contradictory energy, and you know that can be a little bit challenging, especially when your ruler is backspinning as well in your 7th house. That means that there's quite a shift in the communication style, I think, and certainly in the connections that you have in your world. I want to say to you, like, you know, the complexity that you might be leaning into with regards to certain aspects of your life right now are okay, and maybe there's not a clear resolution presenting itself at this moment in time. I think it's okay to sit with the options and to consider lots of possibilities and choices on the table at the moment, and to be flexible in a way and open-minded as to how things can start to demonstrate their own particular type of progress without you necessarily feeling like you've got to step in. You know, there are no wrong paths, Gemini. There's just sometimes unexpected ones. What I do think, though, is that, you know, you also have to, at times, especially during this kind of sensitive and emotive season, give people the grace to act the way that they are choosing to, but that also doesn't mean that you need to excuse behavior. And I think it's very important that you do right by you through the course of this month and to build on what you have already gained. You know, your Emperor energy puts you in a strong position, perhaps stronger than you may think you are at this moment in time, both an emotional strength and also a show of strength, actually. Can really help people understand where you're at. There's something that you are sparked by in the month of December, and I think you need to treasure that, because sometimes, you know, the biggest life decisions are taken in these moments when, you know, strength arrives, and it doesn't always stay with us, right? Sometimes we feel a little bit more vulnerable or, you know, not quite ready. But when that energy hits, when that wave comes, and there's just something about December, that's why I'm saying the significance of a moment is not lost on you. I feel like you make a decisive choice to act. Now, we know there's a continuing polarization, divided energy and contradiction in the world and in the collective. It is not going away, and perhaps your ability as the mutable energy that you are in a mutable season, you know, you're afforded perhaps slightly more of a way of being able to navigate that. But I think it's also being highlighted to me because it's about remembering that, you know, with all of that going on in the external, if you continue to allow it to split your own energy, it's going to make things increasingly more conflicted within you, to a point where you may feel like you are just unable to act. And because I see such a sort of, well, a galvanizing energy with that Emperor, actually, you know, there's just something that you are preparing and readying to execute. But remember, the Emperor acts wisely and acts from a place of experience and maturity. So there's not an impulsiveness, and that can be a little bit challenging when we've got these two retrograde energies in fire signs, Sagittarius and Leo. so that there's this sort of consideration of how we are effectively directing and processing agitation, frustration, even anger with regards to certain scenarios that might be ongoing or activated during this time. Here's another tower. We had 2 last month, didn't we? How was that playing out for you? What did it show you? What did it reveal to you? I think there's just something bigger about this breaking up and sort of allowing more light to really kind of cascade in. And the sudden shifts and changes that feel like they are culminating in your pathways are, something that I just believe you're kind of ready to lean into. And do I think it's easy? No, I don't. But do I think you're almost like willing it because you realize that without this, you don't get to the other side of something that you're trying to achieve or attain, or some aspect of life that needs to move and to evolve. And so I think we can welcome the tower in the sense of, like, sometimes it's not easy for us individually to bring about the momentum and the sheer kind of force of nature. And that's what I want to say here. It feels like a real force of nature. This is a very compelling energy, a very powerful energy that's landing in this month. And if we are what we do, what is that mirroring to you? Because in 7th house energy with Sagittarius season, you are receiving those kind of insights about yourself. And I think that there are things that you are like, I'm no longer chasing this. And it's no longer about the when will and abdicating your power. It's much more about that affirmative intent that you bring to situations that says, I know, or I trust, or I will, or I am. And that's your emperor working with you and through you to really support and give you what it is that you need to kind of have the self-belief, actually, to kind of follow something through. I think there's a follow-through energy in your world right now. Maybe it doesn't fully realize itself in the month of December, but something is underway for you. Something bigger is going on for you. Now, I want to say that, December brings this opportunity for second chances. And, with retrograde energy, we often revisit something. We come back into contact with people, with situations, and all of that can bring about an opportunity to relook at something, to readdress it again. 10 of Wands. And I think what you are coming to terms with is the things that feel too heavy, too much, too draining, too depleting, and realizing that they've kind of reached their conclusion. Yeah. And what we say about the experiences that we've had, what we make it mean, is really everything right now. And I want you to look at the cycle and the journey that you've taken with that 10 of Wands and realize, with all these flowers in bloom, that there's been so much growth there. There's been so much opportunity for you to become enriched by what it is that you've learned, you've participated in, you've been involved with, but also know when it's time. Know when it's time to move on. Know when it's time to make a change. Know when it's time to say, this is not for me anymore. So wherever that is coming in for you through this month of December, and there's always a lot happening this month, right? It's a whole mixture in this season of trying not to spiral out, feeling very emotional, nostalgic, reflective, feeling the pressure to, realize that things were achieved that you wanted to, and have you fulfilled certain promises that you made to yourself. And if we're not careful, we can put huge pressure on ourselves. And I see you putting an awful lot of pressure on yourself, or feeling pressured in some way, shape or form. Try to work through that and understand that, again, that strength, that show of strength, and that understanding that it's within you also says that there's no need to rush anything. There's no need to decide anything. It's just like quietly assume the position of taking your time to figure out what the execution of the strategy needs to be, or of how you need to show up to certain situations. Okay. Now on the 6th, we've got Venus shifting into fellow air sign Aquarius. On the 7th, we also have asteroid goddess Ceres shifting into the sign. She's incredibly nurturing, bringing this moon-like energy. Remember, she also rules money, similar to Venus. Now the same day, Venus conjuncts with Pluto, Sun opposite Jupiter in your sign. This is a really auspicious date in December. Things can happen super fast. Changes can come in that may feel a little bit unconventional. Like I said, no wrong paths, sometimes unexpected ones though. You have got the energy of the Fool, and it feels to me from the 7th right through that 12-12 portal and in the build up to the full moon in your sign on the 15th, which also sees Mercury station direct, something really interesting is unfolding for you. Really interesting. The Fool says, have you got the belief and the confidence to kind of take a step in that direction? Are you prepared for what this energy can do for you and how it wants to work with you? There is perhaps some conversations, particularly around material shifts or changes from an abundance perspective, or the value of something, particularly the value of you. The news, information, the messages that perhaps also come flooding in because they've been held up, or somebody clarifying something that previously wasn't understood and all of a sudden feels like it makes something more possible or plausible than it did before. It's almost like there was a lost in translation moment, or something that on paper then didn't make sense, but having more conversations seems to kind of make some clarity and open things up in a way that affords you the realization that actually this is a path that I can take, you know, and you've come full circle with something. That full moon will show that so clearly to you. And think back to that new moon in Gemini. The seeds that you sowed around that time were so powerful for yourself. And yes, maybe it's taken a little bit more time than you'd anticipated. Maybe even you're still midway in the process, but there's certainly some aspect of it that's finding its own source of completion. And, you know, I think in some regard asking you to release something, because if we let go, what are we afforded with this brand new beginning? And it's beautiful. So having the strength to release the pressure, yeah, or to let go of the obligation. And that's the thing, right? At this time of year, we feel so obligated in so many different ways, don't we? To act in a certain way, to show up to things, to be a certain person, to talk in a certain way, to spend a certain amount. And all of that can just really create layer after layer of like anxiety and overthinking, and just make things feel far more complex than they need to be. So there is a stripping back simplicity that I love that comes through with the Fool from that kind of period in the mid-month of December. And Neptune also stations direct, so there's this sense of just like realigning with some of the ideas and the dreams and the creative kind of outlet that can help almost like knit together, yeah, the actions, the things that you've been thinking and pondering about, you know, the information that's making its way towards you. And 12-12 portal, there's a time you're walking through something. It's like there's a whole lot of energy that feels very different to you in December, right? And so even though I think we all tend to have a little bit of like one foot in the past this month of the year, there's just this enormous sense of you leaning into like the future chapter, you know, the future chapter, and maybe just getting a real glimpse of what that's going to feel like for you. And that feels quite exciting. Yeah. Now the Mercury retrograde that you've been through has been really challenged with these T-squares, and so something very karmic has been playing out. And you know, as you release that, the Sagittarius energy kind of rushes forward, and your King of Wands steps in, and almost like the fairy godmother here, you know, there's just something that is being whipped up and shown to you. And I want you to pay attention. I keep saying this, the significance of something is not lost on you. You know, you've got a really keen awareness and perception of how the signs or the synchronicities or something that's coming in that you're like, yeah, I was asking for that. And, you know, to other people that might not make sense, but to me, I get it. It's deeply personal and it's powerful. Capricorn energy from the 21st, welcome solstice, beautiful time to just recalibrate. And I think it's needed, you know, some moments to just reflect. Where am I? Can I land where I am? Like, is there an acknowledgement and acceptance? There's layers of acceptance. I feel like the acceptance is moving through your body in December. You know, occasionally it's getting stuck a little bit. And that's okay, because there are some things that are a little bit harder. And a little bit less palatable or easy to digest. Nonetheless, you are, because you don't want to have that split in your energy or allow the external polarization to impede your progress any further than it may already have up to this point. We just on the 24th have a Jupiter square Saturn, a little bit of friction for you. Yeah, it's almost like there's the lesson again, something that you know. Oh, it's almost like that you kind of expected and then forgot, but there it is. It sort of feels like, sometimes it feels like that spiritual slap, doesn't it? However, you overcome it very quickly, because really, I think the entirety of this month is bringing in an optimism and a courage of your conviction, and almost just like a willingness to kind of place your faith in something that feels a little bit unknown, but from a gut perspective and an intuition perspective, you just know that this feels right. Chiron goes direct on the 29th, right ahead of the new moon in Capricorn on the 30th. Very healing for you. Putting the plan into motion, the Emperor says, will cause some disruption. However, it feels so light-filled and optimistic for you. And I think that's the strength to kind of see something through, or allow yourself to move through the experiences of this month with a certainty that actually this is leading to better. And even in the moment that might feel tough or challenging at times, nonetheless, it's what we see coming through here. Like I said, some of the best and biggest life decisions and choices that you might make, sometimes you do it alone, sometimes you do it without the support or the championing, sometimes you do it from a place of not knowing all the details, but just trusting in that fleeting at times, or sometimes like gnawing away at you, intuitive response, the call, the pull towards something. But what we're also seeing here is build on what you have, you know, don't stretch yourself so thin, don't put yourself in situations that feel so precarious. You know, you've got a lot already stacked up, banked within you, you know, available to you. And I think that also matters. And because in Sagittarius energy, especially in the first part of the month, you know, you are leaning into the shifts and changes that are happening in the relationships in your life in a big way. There's an opportunity here to see how your communication style is shifting, how theirs is shifting, and what that then means. You know, I don't see that you'll get resolution for everything that is unanswered in your world, but what I do see is you taking more control back, and perhaps that creating its own ripple effect in some ways. There may be some challenges around an authority figure, a partner, you know, there's that sort of disruption tower energy that's, you know, permeating your pathways right now. But you know what, I feel like it has to happen, it has to come to light. We need to move through this because we have to get to the other side, and what's on the other side feels expansive and freeing and kind of fueled with a lot of the things that have been gathering momentum, you know, and they're very specific to enabling your life force energy to go up a gear. And I think that's really needed, especially at this time when, you know, particularly in the Northern Hemisphere, that sort of wintering season can feel a little bit tough. And there's a recluse and a shutting down and a kind of releasing energy that's very important and very valid. But at the same time, you're wanting that life force so that you can, even if it's working on that sacred inner flame, keep something burning brightly within yourself so that you can capitalize on the energy of that new beginning, that new chapter that's presenting itself. Now, if you are new to the channel, you know our last 3 cards we look at in the extended reading, which is another 30 minutes or so. We'll look at a personal card, a relationship card, and we'll also take a look at the year ahead with a major arcana and see the themes that are showing up for you, Gemini. I hope you'll be able to join me. It's a way for me to continue to show up and support you. I appreciate all of you that have been able to invest this year, just as hugely appreciated. I'm just going to clarify these cards, see the direction that we're going to be taking this reading. Queen of Cups, Page of Swords. We have the Emperor with the Knight of Pentacles and the Knight of Cups. Tower comes through with the Three of Swords and the energy of the Star. I kind of like the Three of Swords. I feel it just clarifies things. You just know where you stand. And there, that healing, rejuvenating, optimistic energy of the Star. And please check out my beautiful Solstice activation along with my soul soothing affirmations to support you this month. And of course my journal, my new journal is shipping right now. You can check out that along with my other sacred titles, the deck and the book, and all the offers that are available on romywiser.com. I hope you'll take a moment to go explore all of the ways in which I try to show up and help support you in your spiritual path. King of Wands, Eight of Pentacles. Energy of the Hermit. I think having retrogrades at this time of year can be both a blessing because it allows you to just seek some solace inwardly, you know, but sometimes sort of adding chaos to an already chaotic season can also just test us a little bit more, can't it? Having it shift direct on the 15th, even though you'll still have some shadow, but moving direct on that full moon feels so illuminating. It just feels like, wow, there's such a sort of realization in the best possible way coming through for you, okay? Just don't get pulled in or down to any sort of polarizing or, I don't know, low level conversations, okay, that are just not helping you to get to where you want to be. This is Life Soul Vision Oracle. We're just going to take a look, Solstice, at how it's joining the conversation. Golden ribbons of light. We've got Queen of Earth, Nature's Blessing. Spirit Lion, spiritual strength. Root energy, built from love. Vortex of boundless grace is also showing up. Okay, and let's take a look at the Soul Call Oracle. This is creation from my soul friend Kelly. What do we have for Gemini for December? New presence, new power, strong, centered, and ready. Like that, Gemini. Okay, I just want to give you really quick a look at the journal here as well. This is such a beautiful soul companion, like a soul Bible really. It's just going to give you a reference point, a safe place to land. It will complement your other diaries and planners and really just help remind you of just how much experience, sacred tools and insights you've gained on your spiritual journey this far. And just navigate you through that experience in a really beautiful, loving way. So I hope you'll take some time to have a look. Thank you for being here. I wish you a soulful and peaceful and loving season, and just release the pressure, release the expectations. I hope you'll join me for the extended. I'm going to be back here in 2025 and I look forward to connecting with you then. And thanks again for all your support this year. I appreciate it.